My first time out, I was making a raised panel door for a cabinet. First time using a router. First time on anything. And this is the result that I got. How did I get to this point to where my first time out I made something like this? And the dimensions aren't more than 1/64 of an inch off. How did that happen? This is going to be a review on a Sommerfeld Router Table top. Nobody's ever really done a review on it, so when I was looking to find out what tabletop to use, I really didn't know what to do. So I watched a lot of his videos and I really liked what he did. So I went with his tabletop, and I think it does deserve a review. But so let's get after it. First of all, I don't do YouTubes to gain subscribers. If you want to subscribe, go for it. If you don't, I really don't care. I don't care if you like this video or not. I just put it out there. One is I like doing this stuff. I like making doing the YouTube videos to help people out. I'm not an expert in anything, so the advice I give, you just take it with a grain of salt. But anyway, I'm a first-time do-it-yourselfer on everything. I do have a YouTube channel. If you go to it, you can see the other stuff that I do. I got a couple videos on me making backpacks. 4 years ago, I never even owned a sewing machine. Didn't even know how to sew. Didn't understand the concept on how to sew certain fabrics. So what do? I go watch YouTube and I watch the professionals. I learned how to sew by watching a lot of the videos that Sailrite put out. They're the professionals, and I take the advice from the professionals, and I buy the equipment that the professionals use. And then after practice and a lot of failure, you practice, you fail, then eventually you get it right, and then you move on to bigger and better things. Like I say, I couldn't even sew 2 pieces of fabric. Now I make backpacks, radio harnesses, anything to do with canvas type of work. It's easy peasy now. And I could say my stuff is better quality made than 90% of the pre-manufactured stuff that you buy in sporting goods stores. But again, you buy the tools and you practice and you work at it until you become proficient. That's what I'm doing here. Never made cabinets before, and I want to get proficient at it. So, but it might as well, if you're going to do it, you might as well get the best there is. But anyway, this is what this review is about. And so without any further wasting your time, let's get into it. Okay. For further ado, to really know the quality of this table, let's weigh each of these table segments. Okay. Here I have the fence. Okay. So let's weigh this and see how much it is. I have just a standard electronic fish scale. Let me go ahead and turn it on. Here we go. This is the weight of the fence. It weighs so you can see it. That's right. 20 pounds, 7 ounces. Okay? The guard fence, 20 pounds, 7 ounces for the fence guard. One end segment. Okay, to see if there's something I could hook it into. Oh, here we go. One end segment weighs 11 pounds. Okay, so there's two of these end segments. Okay, the center segment weighs 10 pounds. It looks like almost 11 pounds. Okay, and this is the extruded aluminum panel that goes on. Okay, what you get in the table, the table box, these 3 segments of the router table. We'll go into detail with these holes and stuff here later on. Okay, when I take the camera off the stand. But what you get with the tabletop is you're going to get a bag of these plastic inserts for your router hose, for your different size routers. Okay, you get it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, it looks like. Okay. Then you have the associated hardware that comes with it to put the table together, and we will be doing that. So you got the hardware, you got this, comes with a DVD on how to put it together, and it also gives you instructions, an instruction booklet on how to put it together. Really nice follow through instruction booklet. It tells you how to put the tabletop together and then how to make the cabinet underneath. Okay, so that's what you get when you order the tabletop. This is what's in the tabletop box. Okay, so we'll put all this stuff aside. Because when you order the table, you're also going to get the fence too. Okay. When you order the fence, in the fencing box, naturally you get the fence. Okay. Then you get all of the knobs and the locks. Okay. I dumped everything on the floor. Pick it up later. Then you get closeout panels right here that go from here to here for your close tolerance. And you also get fence guard. You get Teflon tape for the rails. Comes with a screwdriver, and it also comes with this your dust collection system where you could hook up your hose, and then the closeout panels right here. Okay, so when I put this together, I'll have everything laid out for all the things we need for what we're laying out. Okay, step 1 in the book, it says take your 1/4 inch by 1 inch by 20 threads by number 20 bolts, and you're gonna screw these 3 segments together. Okay, and the way the picture shows and the way it's demonstrated in the manual is that we're going to go from the center section out towards the outer panel. There's three per side, and as you see, I got the hardware already laid out. I do this just to make sure that I have enough of the hardware and that it's the proper hardware where I can double check it. So I'm going to put the camera back on the stand and we'll go ahead and put these 6 bolts in. Now, it says we're only going to do it finger tight for now. And when you do put these 3 sections together, you see a little, like a little tongue and groove right here, okay? These outside sections only have it on one side, okay? So, but what the book says, and what it says in here, under step 1 and stuff right up here, is when you line these up, swap them around to see which holes line up the best, okay? And I did it, and to me they all lined up perfectly, no matter how I did it, no matter what side I used or what end I used. So anyway, so we got step 1 done. These are only finger tight. It says only do finger tight for now. So now we're going to go to step 2. Okay, the step 3, step 1 is ensuring you have everything in your packet. When you unpack everything, make sure all your components are there. Step 2 was putting the bolts underneath this table that we just got doing. Now this is step 3, is we got to tighten these bolts on the bottom here, and when we tighten them, we're going to take a straight edge and make sure that when we tighten them that there isn't any bowing or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start tightening up the bolts underneath. All right, now that we got the tabletop, those bolts tightened to where they're supposed to be, it was hard to film. My head was always in the way. But what's happening is when you start to tighten them, if you don't do anything at all at first, you're going to have, I like to go across 2 segments at once. Okay, you can see from here to here is 2 segments, because that's all you're dealing with, is just making sure that it's level from here to here. Okay, when it's loose, you'll have a gap underneath it right here, right where this rail at, there'll be a gap. When you tighten it, this gap will start to, this rail will start to rise, close the gap. If you tighten it too tight, it keeps going over center. And then what's going to happen is this will start rocking. It'll be doing this if it's too tight. Then you just go back and you just tighten it just a little bit more until there's no more rock. Okay, where you know right now I push down on both ends, it's not doing anything. And then there's also no gap where this rail is at. That's how you want it. Okay, then you go to this side and do the same procedure. You lay your straight edge across here where it could go to cover the 2
the two ends, again, before you tighten it, you're going to have a gap right here. Okay? As you tighten it, this gap will rise. Okay, or the gap will close because this section here is going to start going up. If you go too far, again, it will rock back and forth on you. Okay? And it doesn't take much torque. I'd say about maybe, about 12 foot-pounds of tension is all that's required. About 12 foot-pounds. So anyway, so that's how you tighten up those bolts. Okay. So the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this angle iron. There's 4 angle irons over there. There's one with 4 holes in it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and the other ones have slots. Okay, so we want the ones with the holes. So what we're going to do is take a 1/2-inch bolt right there and one of these, and we're going to screw it into this one here, like I have right here. Okay, and then they're going to slide into these tracks right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. Okay. And see how it looks underneath the underside. Right there. You gotta light them up long ways to get them all under there. Okay. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna shove this in and make sure that it's flush right here and at this end down here, flush down here. Okay. Once we do that, so I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it up. Everything is all 7/16 inch wrench sockets, ratchet. Did I mention that fence weighs 20 pounds? The guide fence? Just so you know. Then we're going to take this other bracket. Now we're going to take the ones that has the 3 slots. Okay. And that's going to fit. Okay, again, we're using these short nuts with those lock plates. We're going to go ahead and slide this. Since the table is upside down, we want this part upside down, just like so. So then we'll just go ahead and align that. Maybe line that in there just like that. Can't do it with one hand, but anyway, we get the gist of it. Now the instructions say that we got to adjust this bracket to the top of the table and make sure it's square and stuff. We got time to do that, okay? Because once this table, from what I see, by the time it's made, we always have time to come back and do our final adjustment on this bracket for our tabletop. But for now, what we want to do is tighten this up so it doesn't come loose. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and tighten these down for now. We'll worry about the alignment later. Okay, so now, like I say, we just got this snug down for now, so it doesn't rattle around or fall out or lose our stuff. So, okay, on to the next step. Now we got to do the other side. But before you do the other side, we have, oh, my knees. Okay. We have 8 bolts. Okay. We got long ones, as you can see, and the short ones. If you're going to mount this on a tabletop, make a cabinet with a wooden plywood base, you need to put these 8 bolts, and you need to slide them in these slots right here. Okay. See, as you can see, we have those slots. So what we want to do is take these 4 long bolts, and you got the outer track, you got an inner track. So take it and slide 1 and 2 bolts. Nope, if I could get it going on in there. Let's see, there we go. So we want the 2 long bolts right next to the hole, okay? And the same thing on the other side. The 2 long bolts go over here. So we'll slide them in here. Okay. Slide the other long bolt. In here like so. Okay. So now we got the 2 long ones next to the hole, next to your rotto hole. The shorter ones will go on the outer rail. And I'll explain why as soon as I get done doing this. Okay. And then these 2 go over here. Okay. The reason why it's like this, okay? You got the long bolts here that go in the middle. It gives you a chance to, with these bolts being longer, to line up. If you're going to mount this tabletop onto a wooden cabinet, these bolts are going to be, you're going to have to line these up to a brace, okay? You be able to line these 4 bolts onto the brace because you're going to have to reach underneath the cabinet to do it, okay? And then once these are lined up, you can lower the table, and then these short ones, being that they're shorter, you could come in from the edge, and then line up the bolts this way, okay? But if you put the short bolts up here, and once you get the short bolts lined up, then for you to line the long bolts up, you'd have to raise this up high enough to get to the holes. In the meantime, you just unseated these, okay? So the long ones need to go towards the middle for alignment purposes, so you could align the holes when the final step when you put this table onto the cabinet. That's why you need the long bolts in the middle and then the shorter bolts on the edges, because then you'll be able to reach in there with pliers and stuff and move these around to line up the holes. And as you're doing that, you're already going to have a nut and a washer on these where these won't pull out. So that's why you need the long ones in the middle. Okay, now that we got all the 8 bolts positioned properly, short, long, and then the short ones over there, we're going to go ahead and put on this fence assembly just like we on that side, just like we did on this side. So it's just a repeat of what we did here, okay? And I'm not going to record that. Okay, now if you're going to mount this, not on a wooden cabinet, but like say on a portable, the wall, or like a job site, like table saw stand or a planer stand or anything that they use on the job sites for their power equipment, then these bolts, you don't have to worry about these bolts, but before you put on that railing on that far end, you need to determine how are you going to mount it. Then put the appropriate hardware in here in these tracks. Then you could put on your end track tables, your end track brackets. But that's up to you on how you're going to decide to mount this thing. If you're going to mount it on a wooden cabinet, this is what the setup you need. If you're going to use a job site roll-away stands like the DeWalt stands or Milwaukee or whatever, then you need to see what you need to do to mount the tabletop to those things before you put on that end bracket right there. But I'm going to make a cabinet for this. Why? Because I want to redo my kitchen. And I never built a cabinet before. And I'm anxious to do it. And this will give me practice to build the cabinet for this routing table. I'm going to make it out of pine. I'm going to do a couple steps in pine first before I go to the hardwood, because I don't want to waste a bunch of expensive hardwood by making mistakes. But if I go by the plans that's in this book right here on how to make the cabinet, which she has right here, it tells you everything you need to make, and all the dimensions right here and here. Okay, and I'm not going to focus on it because I don't want to lose any copyright things. But anyway, inside this book that comes with your tabletop. But they do have the plans PDF available from this website, from Sommerfeld Tools. Okay. And you could download the PDF file. Well, as far as this fence is concerned, as of right now, there's really not much assembly there is to it. Not until you start ready to get it to put on the table. And so there's not much I could do about it right now. Did I tell you that fence weighs 20 pounds? Look at the size of that extruded aluminum. Holy cow. And I have this mounted. The side rails are down there on the floor. Okay, that go here on the side that I talked about. This tabletop, when it swings. Let me move this over here. Okay, and as you can see, it swings real easily. Okay, and I have a 2x4 over here because since I don't have the side rails on, this is where where it would lock down. You could see the tongue and groove right there. But all I did was take a 2x4 and match it to the height of this table, and then as it swings, I just take the C clamp and clamp it here on this between the 2x4 right there and there, so I could use it. And let me just clamp it down here. Okay. Now, I could push on this fence, and it wiggles this whole table. and there is no give whatsoever. So you could push as hard as you can against that fence, and that fence is not gonna budge at all. And this tabletop, being it mounted to this plywood, it's good, just good as a cast iron tabletop, but 75% lighter. So then this is my push block that you use when you want to cope the ends. Then I have it set up to a on-off switch. And then underneath, what I'm using for a router motor is the Titan router. And this one right here is probably about the best designed to make for an under table, because all your adjustments all your adjustments are right here. Okay, nothing's on the back, nothing's on the other side of it. So everything you need to do to the router is right there. It's all on one side. So that's the review. The mistakes I made and why I had to redo some pieces. Oh, right here, let me show you. I'm using hickory, and right there got a little bogged down, and that was my fault, and not the fault of the routers or the router table. But you can see right here it chattered, and I think what happened was the router bit came loose. I didn't tighten it down enough, and so instead of running it through again, I just got a new piece of wood, tighten it down. But hickory, when you use hickory, I haven't used any other hardwood yet, but hickory, you really have to take it slow. In other words, when you adjust the fence to where to the bearing, you don't do that. You got to move the fence in, move it back into the router. I would say about no more than a 1/16 of an inch when you're doing your initial cuts. And when you get to the end, you want to do your final cut no more than a 32nd of an inch to do that final cut, because then it'll be nice and smooth. Because hickory, it splinters. It goes hog wild. So you got to take your time with it. You got to baby it and feed it in little by little by little, because it's such a dense wood and it's such a stringy wood. So yeah, you just take your time with it. Once I learned how to cut with it, it's a dream. But like I say, this is my first attempt, and that's all because of his instructions on how to use the router table. And I never used one before, and this is the final result of my first attempt to make a door. And a lot of it was I was trying to rush the router, and so anyway, that's the review of this table and of his instructions and his videos on how to use a router table to make cabinets. Sure, you might notice that this panel and this panel are misaligned, but these move. Okay, these move in and out. So when I end up gluing this, then these will, and then put in these those spacers, foam rubber spacers that Sommerfeld that Mark also sells. It will center these panels up. But this right here is my main concern, this little rise. Like I said, I'm going to sand that down to see what effect it has. And if I sand it down and you don't notice it, then I'm going to go ahead and just keep this board. But if I was a professional making this for somebody else, I wouldn't, you know, I'd probably redo these two pieces. But I only got a limited supply of wood that I bought. So anyway, that's the first time around. Yeah, I took this side panel style, they would call it, out of the equation here. I'm going to redo another one. And then I'm going to show you the process and how the routers work. Okay, and it's a little chewed up right here, but the profile is that this will be inside of the rail. Yeah, I don't like it, but again, this is a learning process and it's for my router cabinet. So lesson learned, do not rush the router bits. But I'm going to keep this panel, this raised panel on this door, or on this panel. So let's get things set up. Okay. I'll be using a cabinet maker set. Okay. And his dies, his routers are all set up by using this depth gauge. Okay, and I'll show you how that uses. But it's all revolved around the cope cutter. Okay, the cope cutter, if you look at all of these different ones, okay, it's the one, it's a double cutter right here, and it's the one with the bearing in the middle. So when you pull that out, this is your cope cutter. Okay, and the cope cutter goes, it's a cross cut, just like cross cutting saw. It goes against the grain, so you're going to be using it against the grain. Okay, your pattern cutter, which is the one with the bearing on top, that's like rip sawing. That goes with the grain. Okay, and that's how his routers are set up. But you always start out with the cope router first, because that's what this that's what this depth gauge is. It's set for different cope cutters. Okay, so let me put this on the stand and I'll show you how that's done. Okay, first off, inside this router collet is a rubber grommet. Okay, now like I say, I'm not an expert. You just don't drop a router into a bottom of your thing and bottom out, because when you tighten this down, it sucks down. They say, well, the heat generates this and heat generates that, but what happens is it doesn't grip the collet fully. Okay, so with that rubber grommet, when you tighten it down, it squeezes it down just enough to where it grabs the router. And then with that rubber in there, all of these routers, according to Mark Sommerfeld, is when they make them, they're adjusted to where once you adjust this, all of the routers in this set are adjusted to what this one is, and I'll show you when we change routers. But this is the cope cutter, and we're going to set this one in first. And I'm going to just go ahead and just tighten it down since it's already in the up mode. Can't get it in there.
That's tight. I had a little router come loose. There we go. Then you adjust you come down here and you just turn it and you adjust your router that way. Okay. So what we're gonna do, next step is to use this. Okay. And as you can see, it has different settings on it. You got a star right here, and this is where you index it. Okay. And then it has a base plate. This goes to, it works from less than 3/4, probably 7/16. Goes all the way to 1 in 30 seconds. But if I turn it, each time I turn it, you can see it raise. Then you can see it fall again. Okay. So we're working with 3/4 of an inch of wood. That's the thickness of the wood. So we're going to go to the 3/4 inch right here, which is only a couple clicks over. Okay. Now we're set for 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to use the raised panel cope. It's labeled in there, setting. And what we want to do is take this top cutter and lay it right on top of this ledge right there. Okay, so let's go do that. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, let's see. Back this off a little bit more. Okay, so all I got to do is just let me focus in, telephoto this. There we go. And all I want to do is get that right in, so there we go. Right in between the two blades where it's tight right there. So let go of it. Okay. Now I have to use my micro adjustment just to go up just a little bit more. There we go. See how smooth that fits in there? That's where you want it. And then you just lock down your router to where it doesn't move. Okay, there we go. Now we're set. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the coping on this board. Okay, normally we would set our fence to where your bearing right in here is equal with the fence. Now this is a court, like I said, I'm not an expert in this. This is his instructions. Then you line up your fence to your bearing, and once you do that, then you're ready to go. With hickory, you can't do that. You're cutting too much at one time, and you'll have all kinds of problems. So what we have to do with hickory and some hardwoods is we have to back it out. What I do is just take the ruler, and that's where the first cut's going to happen. Then I would go in no more than that, right about there. Okay, it doesn't look like much. Let me tighten that up. Okay, but anyway, but now we have to back up because since we're not going to cope anything, I have to change my router because we're only going to do the pattern, which is we're going to have to ripsaw it. So I have to take my pattern cutter. This is the one with the bearing on top. Okay, but again, you have to set the routers up using the coping pattern. So now what I got to do without changing anything, I forgot about that because we're not going to be coping. We're just going to be using that one cut. We're only going to do one cut.
So you just unloosen this. Don't tighten it too tight. Okay. There we go. Take out your zero tolerance thing. Get your wrench. And all you gotta do is just there we go. There we go. Just let it drop in. There we go. Okay. Then we just drop this in. And see, now your router's already set for the pattern that we're going to do. It's going to set for the there we go. We'll put this over here for now. Okay. Now again, I take my ruler, I put it against the cutter, just like so. I move my fence, and that's where it hits, right there. So now I'm just going to push the fence back, probably about that much right there. Okay. Oh, that's right. I still got to tighten this up yet. There we go. Recheck it. Right about there. It's all I want. Okay. Take my clamp. Again, this is just temporary. Okay. Take my board, good side down, good side always down, because I want that knot to show. Okay. Okay. The results are as you can tell, look at that cut. That is perfect. See? And the problem I've been having is I've been trying to do one cut at a time. And it was just eating up the wood, tearing up the stuff. So you just have to take your time and do it right. Okay? Let's put it on the let's put it on that panel and see what it looks like. Okay. As you can see, it's a better fit. And what I did is, well, since I put that new cope dye in there at the beginning, it looked like the cope was set too low, and so it needed to be raised a little bit. So when I did that, it helped this gap a little bit. I'm still gonna have to sand it, but when it's all clamped together and glued, I have only like that much of a thing to sand down. I'm a lot happier with that. Again, a learning process on how to work with wood and how to deal with this stuff. Of course, it's not up there at the top, because this all has to come down again. And I'm gonna have to router a tongue on this end and router a tongue on this end before I glue it also. But this is just a preliminary fit, and I'm happy with it, and I'm gonna keep everything that's on here right now. So again, troubleshooting to find out why it doesn't fit. Well, sometimes all you gotta do is just go back to the router and run it through once again, or you know, that's a little loose fitting, but like I say, when I glue it, when I clamp it and glue it, it will stay in place. But like I say, first time out. But yeah, when it's all clamped together and glued, it will look perfect. So take it from a beginner. You can't go wrong with Mark Sommerfeld's his router sets. But like I say, they're all custom made to one another. You get one adjusted, then all you gotta do is just slap another one in, and go to his website, and I'll have it labeled in the description, and watch his videos. If you're new to this, it's worth watching. If you're an old hat, well then you know what, you're probably saying, well, I already know all this stuff. So but anyway, like, this is for somebody who's never done this before. So if I could do it, anybody could do it. Okay, all you got to do, again, is all the proper tools, and then learning how to do the process. Measuring, cutting these things to length and width. Your initial cut is the most important thing. You can't be, well, that's close enough. No, it has to be spot on. If it says, if your measurements come out to where this has to be, I had to alter the dimensions in the plans because my panels, I couldn't get them to 6 3/4 inches, which is they're supposed to be. These are 5.5 inch cut panels. So I had to alter this center panel to 4 1/8 inches. Okay. It's at 4 1/8 inch cut. No more, no less. Not 4 inches, not 4 1/4 inches, but 4 1/8. And to do that, you have to naturally have good quality saw blade. You know, I got a DeWalt. This is the, what is this? The 741, 7491. So, oh, this sledgehammers I had to alter something. That has nothing to do with the. Okay. And then also to make a good cabinets, you got to have a good. I got a saw right here that has the FS tool saw blade on it, which is about $180 saw blade, and you could tell by the teeth on it. So there's a lot of reviews on saw blades, what to use, and you know. But what happens with this DeWalt table stand and the stop back there, it does good if you're doing 2x4s, you're framing or something like that. But for cabinet making, forget it. Don't even waste your time trying to use this. I only use this as a support. What I had to do to make a good stop to where it's consistent with board after board within not a 1/16 of an inch, not a 32nd of an inch, but spot on. I had to take a piece of hickory. This is a 1x2 inches, and I bolted it in there and there. I had to take off this top high rail, and I just come down here with a clamp, and that would be my stop. Sure, it does this, it flexes back and forth, but it doesn't go this way. So if I want 27 inches, once I measure this out to 27 inches, I put a board up there. Every board that I cut is 27 inches. Not 27 1/4, not 27 1/8, not 27 7/32, 27 inches. So, but this right here, it just moves around too much. It gets you within a 1/16 of an inch, but that's not good enough when you're doing the work like this. You got to have it more precise. So, anyway, that's what it takes if you want to build cabinets. And over here I got that extended out just for that. But once I figured out the stop, then it went by pretty quick. It took me a half a day to figure out how to make a stop for it, and I didn't want to measure every board because consistency is the name of the game. So, and quality tools, quality saw blades. If you're going to spend the money on the wood to do the cabinet, you might as well spend the money on the tools to do the work with. And like I say, this is my first time ever doing this, and you've seen the results of it. And that was all because of his instructions and then the quality of tools that you use.